Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Optional and today we are going to be doing Jack on TryHackMe. Something a little bit different since last video. I know there is now a webcam. So, to start off with, we are greeted with our IP address and add Jack to /etc host. So we're going to grab our IP and as we want to be obedient, we'll get rid of that. We'll pop our IP in here and we'll do jack.tryhackme. Right quit. Why did that just... Apparently it wanted to put in a fair amount of that. Let's just get rid of a bunch of those. I'm not sure why that's just dumped all of those in there. Apparently it felt like it needed to duplicate, you know? Okay, now that's sorted out. Let's start off like we usually would. We'll run SCSV for standard scripts and system versions. We'll do TAC because I've started to get into the habit of doing a full port scan. We'll do jack.tryhackme and my output normal scans and into mmap. Now this can take a little while, so we will be back when this scan has already ran. Okay, and we're back. So the scan has finished running and we only have two ports open. We have port 22 running OpenSSH 7.2p2, which is a fairly recent version for Ubuntu as it's detected, and we also have HTTP with WP admin disallowed. So let's jump on in. We'll do jack.tryhackme and we will see what we've got. So we instantly jump in. We don't see anything too fancy, just a very bare bones blog. Jack is visiting Overlook Hotel in Colorado for some inspiration. So we've got a potential username there. What we are going to do is we're going to use WordPress Scan. So if we do help, it's going to come up with all of our options, I'm hoping. There we go. Which tells us we need to do URL. And we're going to be enumerating users, so tac E and U for users. So it's WP scan, tac URL. We can do jack.tryhackme, and then we can do EU. That's going to take a couple of seconds to run. However, it is going to give us some. No, we do not want to update because why would we? And then we just wait. So it's going to give us a lot of useful information. If you've never done WordPress before, this is actually a really good tool. It's probably one of my go-tos for testing things out. So to start with, we see it gives us any interest in headers. It tells us the system or the server version, entries in robots.txt. We've got XML RPC, which means it's potentially susceptible to brute forcing. We've got a README, a few other things. It will suggest a few nice things for us as well as we go further down. So we've got plugins that it's coming up with, and we've got usernames. So this is what we're looking for. That comes in quite handy. So we have Vim users. So we've got Jack, Wendy, and Danny. So what we can now do is if we do WordPress scan again, and this time instead of using enumerate, we're just going to pull up the help on the right hand side of the screen. So we want to use passwords and usernames. So we can supply a username list with tac U, do users, and then tac P. User share word list, and this time instead of using RockU, because RockU is quite big, I actually had a lot of success with fast track on this one. So we're just going to start that, run it up. No, we're not going to update because WordPress Scan, please stop asking us. And it's going to quickly brute force everything. As we can see, it's going pretty fast. So it's going to take about 10 seconds or so, and hopefully we are going to get a hit on what we can log in as. So without further ado, as we come in, we get success. So we have success on Wendy with the password change later. So if we do Wendy, change later, out to creds, we now have our login. So if we go to /wp login.php, enter Wendy with change later, hopefully we have an admin account. So that will lead us to being able to insert our own reverse shell, which will instantly give us our access. It is WordPress. WordPress doesn't like doing any sort of logging in fast, apparently. So it may take a couple of minutes. In the meantime, there's not really much we can do other than wait around. Because we want to perform a little bit more enumeration as soon as we get in, right? I am a little bit impatient. So what we'll do is we'll cut the video. So I will be back when we are logged in as Wendy. Okay, and we're back again. We have logged in as Wendy, so we can see by Howdy Wendy in the corner. However, there is one problem we have found. We are not an admin. So the first thing we can do is look around and hope we find something interesting. I never, when I initially worked through this box, found anything. I found using search exploit was actually my best protocol. If I could spell privilege WordPress. So if we do search exploit WordPress privilege, initially when I was doing this, I was working through because when I ran enumerate plugins, it didn't actually pick anything up. However, what we do want to use is the user role editor. So if we just copy the Ruby file to our machine, so if we do search exploit, tac m, and then input the file we want to copy, it's going to copy it into the root directory, which means we can run less on it. So this is a Metasploit module, however we are going to do this without Metasploit. Any of you that know me know I'm really not a fan of the framework, even though it does have a place. So essentially what we're going to, it would ask you to set a series of things, target URI, admin path, when we scroll down, we will see what it's actually going to send off. So it will send off nonce, color nonce, keep going, and this is what it's going to be sending off, right? So it's going to send off this. The thing we're actually interested in is your other roles, right? Because it's going to be doing data store privileges. Now, when this is sent off, if you were to insert this in Metasploit, or in Burp Suite even, or Zap if you are a fan of Zap, this will show your roles and it will send administrator. So what we can do is we're going to quickly start up Burp Suite, and we're actually going to do this manually. So you'll see what I mean. The best thing to look at is the order. So this is how it would be string. So it would be WP nonce and WP referrer and from and check user. You get the picture. So what we'll do is after pass 1 and 2, we'll add to your other roles. Nope, we don't want to update. If you can't tell already, I probably should go through and update some of my softwares on my Kali distro. Let's see. So we want to intercept this. So if we just click update, use Foxy Proxy up in the top to tell it we're intercepting on burp. And we'll see WP nonce, HTTP referrer, yada yada yada, as we thought, and then we will see pass 1 and pass 2. But there is no your other roles. So let's just quickly copy that. We'll add the and sign here, or the ampersand. We'll copy that in, and we'll do equals administrator. Administrator, just like that. We've got our and action, so nothing actually changes. We click forward and continue on, and what do you know? We are now an admin. Beautiful, right? Amazing. I was actually quite surprised at how simple that was. Am I likely to yoink that for future box devs? Yes. I'm a big fan of how that works. The only difference is I might add. I'm a big fan of vhost, so I'd probably add like a development vhost, so simple login. But anyway, let's gain our foothold on the system. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the plugin editor. Okay, understand. And we're going to go up here. Now this is something I started doing recently. Is just doing PHP system calls. So we're going to test for RCE this way. We're then going to comment out our PHP here. So if we do our reverse shell, so we're going to go on to Pentest Monkeys, and if we go to our RMRF, because again, I'm a big fan of this reverse shell, we're going to run ifconfig ton0 and pull our IP address as well. For those of you that are familiar with reverse shells, you run netcat. So essentially this is piping all this into netcat to pull us a reverse shell essentially. We're going to catch this on port 9001 though. Then we're going to set up our netcat listener on 9001 and update the file. File successfully updated. A key thing to note if you are going to inject your reverse shell into plugins, I do it because it's my preferred method because I don't like messing with themes. Plugins require headers, so this part will actually be required in the program, as well as this stuff. So the best thing to do is just leave the top in and put your code at the bottom, if you're going to do a bit of a louder plugin, for example. So now when we press activate, we should see we gain our shell. So as we're going to do which Python. We have Python 2, so we're going to do Python tac c, import pty, pty.spawn, bin, and bash. and that's going to give us our TTY or PTY session. Then we're going to export term equals xterm. That's going to allow us our clear functions. Then we're going to do Control Z stty raw minus echo. If we do fg, we now have a fully interactive shell. Perfect. So let's go see what users we are. We can see we are www data. We can see the hostname is Jack. And now in the host directory we have Jack. So if we go to Jack, okay, we can get in. Can we see user? Yes, we can. Perfect. So there's our first flag. We can now go and submit that into our page, and that's great. So let's see. We can't get anything out of SSH. What is reminder.txt? Please read the memo on Linux file permissions. Last time your backups almost got us hacked. Jack will hear about this when he gets back, which is a bit of a weird comment. We are trying to get the Jack user. The key thing that took me a little bit of a while to understand, I started to read into this message a lot further, is last time your backups. So if those of you that are familiar with file systems, there is a var/backups directory which we can then go into, run ls, and we find our IDRSA. So if we cat IDRSA, bingo, that looks perfect to me. So let's quickly grab that and do vim id_rsa, chmod 600 that, and then if we do ssh taci IDRSA, jack at jack.tryhackme, added, and it logs us straight in. So that is all we need from our www login. Now we can see, how do we privilege escalate from this? If we do sudo attack out, we don't have a password. If we do cat etc cron tab, we don't really get anything. So let's go into temp and we will pull our script over. So if we run up, which is our alias for Python server, it's going to tell us the directory, IP address, and then the server is up. So if we do wget limpies.sh, it's going to pull that to the system, run bash on limpies, and that's going to set that out. We'll let that run for just a moment, and we'll see if there's anything interesting comes up that's going to pique our interest. Yeah, hopefully we find something interesting that we can actually go through and see. So if we go up to the top of this already, because there is potentially something in here. First thing I always check is kernel versions, just in case there's some sort of low-hanging fruit that we can potentially use. So it's saying our path is exploitable. That has potential. In this case, it's not the case, though, unless there's some sort of unintended. We can scroll through this. We can see there's nothing really interesting going on that's screaming out. We're looking at root privileges, because obviously we want to escalate. And we see our system here. There's not really much going on in here. We do see root is running cron f. Whether that's something to look up, that might be something. However, let's just drop that back down and see if there's anything that comes up. So at the moment we can see we have group writable files, which is actually the path we're going to be going down. We can see we can go into Python 2.7. And these are the files we can potentially modify for our own gain, essentially. Let's see if there's any files that are being updated or ran. It's not looking like there's anything in temp, var, backups, anything like that. Is there anything down on the interesting writable files other than what we've already got? No, there isn't. We've got some stuff in here as well that doesn't really amount to anything. So let's go ahead and run our PSPy. So what I normally do, if you can't run sudo, there's nothing in crons, I will then resort to running a program called PSPy. Now PSPy is really good actually. It allows you to see crons running as root that you wouldn't be able to usually see. So we do wget our PSPy real quick, close our server, and then chmod +x PSPy. Now we can run that and hopefully find out what's going on. So I will get up the PSPy GitHub as well, which all you've got to do, Google PSPy, it'll be the first thing that comes up, monitor Linux processes, and it'll give you everything. I just downloaded the release because I'm lazy and I don't like making my own code or making my own binaries. So we just wait. So we can see that we are running user bin cron tac f as UID 0, which is root, sh taxi co localhost, and it's doing output log. So let's go check what that is. So if we do cd ops status check, we can see there is also something running as Python, and it's checker.py. So if we cat checker.py, import os.system, user bin sh, or user bin curl, that strikes privilege escalation to me because of the import command. So what we can say is this is importing the library, it's running as Python 2. I don't know if Python 3 is on this system, so if we do which Python 3, it is. But we know we can modify files, especially when we ran limpies. It did actually come up saying we could break or modify the OS library. So if we do find / tac group, is it groups or groups? Groups family, I believe. Group. It's group. And then we'll output out to dev null, just so we don't get any of those nasty errors. We can actually see we can write there. That's a manual way of finding it. That's essentially what PSPy runs. It'll run a groups, then it'll pull out the groups and see what you've got. We can see we're in family. So if we cd to here, that's what we want. So what we want to do is we want to modify os.py. And the way I went about doing this, I grabbed our reverse shell. Where is our Python one? So I grabbed this one essentially. This whole import string, I went straight to the bottom and I just put it in. The one thing that I slipped up on a couple of times when I did this, I should just page down this actually. So we will drop this in and we'll split it up. So one thing we need to do is we are still importing. So we're going to do import socket. We don't need to import subprocess or OS because we're already putting it in the OS file. Let's just, for quality of code, put that there. And I'm just going to format this so it's a little bit better to look at. We will go around it and put our IP address in a second. os.dup2, that's in there. If anyone asks me what this code does, I'd say it creates a reverse shell, and hopefully it will give us our reverse shell. This one isn't actually going to work. This isn't the one I used. Bash reverse shell. I think it was the high on coffee one or the payloads of all things cheat sheet. So the one I used actually imports PTY as well. Python taxi import process bin sh. Let's grab the one from here. This one I like a bit better because it gives us a PTY session as well. Import PTY. This is the one I use. So let's just quickly go back in and do that all over again. Essentially, the only thing I've learned from this is that I'm really picky when it comes to how stuff looks. Let's get rid of subprocess and OS again. And back to formatting our code. So we've got s.connect, s. Now the thing that's important that took me a little while and I slipped up on, you don't actually need os. Because you're already imported into OS. So just get rid of that. I found it errors if you don't. Import pty, pty.spawn. I am actually going to put my import pty at the top. And then obviously we want to if config ton 0. We want to change our 11. Now I'm going to check to see if it's worked. When I did this, I put a put end statement in. I want to see if it'll pull a statement to us without. So if I do cat lvmp 1337, and if we run /temp pspy, we'll actually see if it's going to come up for us. So we'll see as soon as it runs through. The cron is running every minute. However, my experience with cron privilege escalation, it feels like an eternity when you're waiting for stuff to actually work. So hopefully, any time now, we should see this run. We should, if we've done this correctly, see a hit on our listener, which will be great. So what we'll do is potentially, if this is going to take a little bit longer than I thought, We're just going to wait. Let's go with PTY. We might have to add a couple of bits to the code as well. I know when I did this initially, I added the s.close at the end as well. If that wasn't already in the code that I copy and pasted. Not 100% certain. I also said I did a put env on it, just so it was a little bit. It seemed like the only thing that stabilized it. So as soon as our clock hits 8:44, we should see a callback, or at least a cron hit. If we see the cron hit and no callback, we know we've got to modify our code a little bit and change our reverse shell. And go from there. Hopefully we get something soon. There we go. So it's ticked over, and we see the cron hit. We see it run status checker, and it's not actually giving us a callback. Why is that? That should work. Interesting. So let's go vimos.py again. Go all the way down to the bottom. So we've got our socket. We have our s.connect. Let's just make this a little better because it's a little bit ugly. It's probably because we don't have our s.close on it. If I was to take a guess, we also don't need that there. Let's try that. So what I'll do, guys, I will cut the video here. There's been a fair few cuts in this one, but I don't like to leave you guys hanging in between, especially when there's not really any justification as to what I can put in there. So yeah, I will cut us back in when we get our PTY or our cron to run. Okay, so we are back. That took a little bit longer than I thought. For some reason, when it ticked over to 45, it didn't want to run the cron. However, we do get a hit, and we get it back as root. So if we do who am I and hostname, we can see we are Jack. Export term equals x term real quick, just so we can clear that. So if we go into /root, we can word count the root flag and see 33 characters. So that is Jack, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you learned something. And if you did enjoy it, please leave a like and subscribe. If you're not already, feel free to join the Discord. The link again will be down in the description. Let me know what you think of the webcam, and yeah, I will catch you in the next video.